Hey guys, this is Joe748, and I'm here with the one and only, the lovely SD1. SD1, how you doing?
I've never been called lovely before. I appreciate you, Joe.
Well,
Thank you.
Can you please call your wife and get her on the line here so we can discuss that? Yeah, we just wrapped up a boot camp, and it was a really good boot camp. I feel like the skill level is pretty high. There's usually all ranges of kind of skill level. And it kind of varies from boot camp to boot camp, but I feel like this one, everyone did super well.
Yeah, I was happy with this group. Well, I'm happy with all the groups, but in terms of skill level, work put in, definitely higher than average.
We have a Q&A mailbag podcast for you guys. Questions submitted on the YouTube community page, some on the BJA forum, and other places. We're going to get into that, but real quick, I just want to share a story from last night. Okay, after the boot camp, I had to stay in Vegas to do some non-AP related things. And I'm staying at a nice Airbnb. I'm not staying at some dumpy casino, somewhere off strip. It's a nice place. I'm sleeping last night and I had a dream that something bit me. And in my dream, I pulled whatever it was that was biting me off my arm and I flung it. I woke up and then it was weird because I kept feeling the sting of where in my dream it bit me. And I was like, okay, was that a dream or was that real? Turned the lights on and I lifted up the covers and the sheets and I see a scorpion crawling around in my bed. And I'm like, what the hell? So I got stung by a scorpion last night in my sleep. Started Googling things like, how long do you wait to get anti-venom from a scorpion? How do you tell if the scorpion's venomous? And it turns out that the scorpion that stung me or bit me last night was the most venomous type in North America, I guess. But luckily, it gets dangerous. It affects kids and older adults more. Like it's higher risk. So luckily, I was fine. Usually, if you guys are in Vegas or in the Southwest Arizona and you get bit by a deadly scorpion, what you need to look out for is this. It's going to feel like electricity is at the site of the puncture. So if you feel like shooting pains of kind of like you got shocked, definitely go call poison control and get that taken care of because they do have anti-venom. But that's my little tip, my life on the road card cutting tip.
So it was one of those little bastards, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was small. Yeah, it was small.
Yeah, they're all over Vegas.
Freaked me out though. I didn't go back to sleep for another hour, so I was just panic Googling all these things. Anyway, first question.
Fun times.
Between the Ace 5, High Low, Red 7, KO, High Up 2, which card cutting system is the most profitable, modern, and carries the least risk of ruin?
There's a lot there to unpack. Which card counting system is the most profitable? So level 1, level 2, level 3 card counting systems, the higher the level, the more EV there is and the more complex it is. So from a mathematical standpoint, the most profitable would technically be the higher EV, higher level, more complex systems. That being said, and I know Colin has said this many times, all of the most profitable card counters he knows, that I know, that Joe knows, used high-low. And that includes the infamous MIT team, BJA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing with the ROR, but technically ROR really just comes down to bankroll, spread, et cetera. They're all going to have variance involved to one degree or another. BJA teaches, and we believe, unless Joe wants to disagree with me, that high-low is the most efficient because, how much do you want to strain your brain? So if you become automated at high-low, the only reason, in my opinion, to learn something more complex would be just an exercise in education and because you want to do it. But you're going to be straining your brain more. KO is the level 1, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast interview with Richard Munchkin, and he was saying how he was talking to James Grosjean, and Grosjean was sort of favoring KO, actually, and kind of convinced Richard to go with KO. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said on the podcast. And that was because for people, I think, starting out, if you're not perfect with this, basically the answer is whichever system you can execute perfectly is going to be the best one for you. And when people get into it, sometimes the true count, they're not as well practiced as they should be. So then KO might be a better option for them, like bang for your buck if you're not going to do that. But luckily, I mean, I feel like all the members at Blackjack Apprenticeship and with all the tools and stuff we have, learning the true count is not that much extra strain. I mean, the amount of extra hours you have to put into it, I don't think is that much more, especially with all the, help that we have on the site.
It might help also a little bit. I mean, Rymo uses KO, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The discard tray doesn't matter. So you would eliminate like a very rookie or very beginning card counter hiccup or hole in your game, which would be staring at the discard tray, which kind of gives you away. That doesn't happen with KO. It's a pretty simplified system. High-low is more accurate than KO, but both have their strengths. I just like level 1. I like the simplicity of it, and I like not overstraining your brain in doing this.
Yeah, and I think if you are going to do a higher level count, it's probably best to use that for something more like if you're going to play a ton of single deck or something, that's when it's going to make more of a difference. And I think that's when it's going to look more different than if someone's counting you down and they're using high-low. If you're using a more complex system in the single deck, if you have a stickler who's like really trying to see how close you are to the count, that could be enough to possibly throw them off for a little bit. But
they all get you backed off, though.
Yeah. If the spread is profitable, you're going to get backed off.
Yeah. Okay. Has the growing popularity of BJA and other card counting content creators, that's a lot of C's, on the internet changed anything about the blackjack scene in real casinos?
That's a good question. It's kind of hard to quantify exactly and to know for sure because we're not, it's kind of like reporting bias and how many hours people are getting in. But there's a ton of people we don't hear from that are not just showing all their stats. But I think from the surveillance people that we've talked to recently, the trend that I've been seeing is there's a lot more new card counters that have 1 or 2 entries, but there's not a ton of new card counters who have multiple entries who are probably more full-time, or I think that number is probably just sort of stays the same over the years.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Also, if you think about it, guys, don't fool yourself. This is a very niche community. The amount of people that count cards and then the amount of people that count cards well and actually have a winning game, those are 2 different categories, and the counting cards category is still very small. There's a lot of casinos out there. So, yeah, it's small.
Yeah, and those people who are getting backed off once or twice or have 1 or 2 entries in the database, they could be not exactly right on the count and still be spreading their bet enough to a sweaty casino will back off anyone who's doing like $10 to $100. So that doesn't necessarily mean, that card counting is inching closer to disappearing. But the one thing I'm worried about with the content creators filming is I don't want one of these casinos who overreact when you're just card counting without a camera on you to, I would not be surprised if you get a casino backrooming someone, arresting someone for claiming they're using a device to cheat with the camera. I think that's going to happen probably somewhere. If we're getting arrested for just coming back when we're backed off,
yeah,
what's to stop those same casinos from claiming that you're cheating because you have a camera, on you? I don't know. I mean, I just hope that no one gets in trouble with that. But all right, how many cards have you counted?
A lot.
All right, let me get out my calculator. But let me do some quick math here, some rough math. Okay, I'm not sure how accurate this figure is. I think for me it would be around 2.5 million cards, maybe.
Now, are you including actively counting during training or boot camp?
No, just table hours.
You almost have to restrict it. How many hours do you have?
Around 3,000.
Yeah, okay. So I'm probably half of yours.
What is the house edge if you count cards, use deviations, but don't have a bet spread? Could this strategy still be viable due to comps?
So if you are counting cards optimally and using deviations and are not spreading, I think you overcome the house edge on a 0.5% game, but I'm not 100% sure about that. You're better off if you just want to have fun, like you are sick in the head and you enjoy blackjack and are a gambler, you're better off doing like just a 2-step spread. So you at least know that you're achieving the edge. We can definitely look this up because I don't remember the exact amount of what deviations give you against the game's edge. I think we both know what it is for your EV, but the game's edge. So if you just essentially bump up your spread, like if your base is one hand of 25, if you bump it up to one hand of 75, you're going to overcome the house edge. And then you can just take all the variance on the teeth for those fabulous players club points. If that's what you want.
And SD1 isn't saying you're going to have an edge off the top here. He's just saying instead of a 0.5% edge, it'll probably be down to about 0.2 or something.
Yeah.
Maybe at best. So yeah, I agree. Just going 1 to 2, that's not going to raise any red flags, especially on a 6-deck game. And it's more well worth it to do that than to not do it, especially with the pain you're going to. I don't know how much pain these people are willing to go through for.
Yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing. If you look at an N0 for a good size spread, depending on the game, I mean, it can be very painful. The N0 on doing, this kind of small bump in a spread, I've never looked at it, but that risk of ruin is also probably like, you better have a sizable bankroll to be doing this also. That matters. It's not like you can just go in there and be like, yeah, I'm just going to bump up my spread to this. Nobody's really going to care. I'm going to use deviations, et cetera, et cetera. Ironically, you probably will still get a back off somewhere, some places, but you're asking for a lot of pain. It's not like I'm just going to stay even the whole time, pretty much. That's not how it works.
Speaking of comps, the next question is, if you're not supposed to accept a player's card, how do you get comped room?
You don't.
Hand over your credit card.
Yeah. Pay for them.
I get so jealous when I hear some of the, older APs talk about how they used to be able to get players' cards without an ID. You just give them a name. Like, what?
Yeah.
But at the same time, back then, they probably didn't have as robust databases. So it kind of probably evens out a little bit. But man, that would be great. There was one casino once that did let me just change my name to whatever I wanted it to be. At least my first name. I don't know how this came up, but I told them to change it. Originally, it was my first name, my last name. And then I got them to change it to Big Egg Roll and my last name. And it's printed out on my player's card like that. I don't know why they allowed that, but all right. How do you handle negative variance? Being years into this, do you get affected by the downswings still?
Yes. I've said this before. There's something sick in my head other than like what you guys all probably know about just from listening to me. It does impact me less on a table game versus if I'm doing some other advantage plays like machines. I'm just going to go. I mean, it's public information. There are AP machines out there now, sadly. Joe, I'm not kidding, man. Like, I lose $5 on a slot play and I just want to punch the machine. Like, I'm raging. I lose $15K on a table game and I'm not happy, but in general, I'm like, yeah, it's part of the game. It's going to come back to me, which is just so weird. But I just hate machines so much. But long-term variance, like, those downswings are just brutal. They're just brutal. That's all there is to it. I guess it gets a little easier. Like, you handle it better, but that doesn't make it suck any less. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. It doesn't ever go away. As you ramp up your spread and you're betting bigger, I think you slowly dip your toe in the water. You get sort of accustomed to it, but it never fully goes away. There's never a point, no matter what AP play you're doing, where you're losing and you're not immediately either disappointed or angry or worried, like, how long is this going to go on for? And not even just with slots or something, even other AP plays or I've done where it's like our edge is, we know there's an edge, but it's not exactly 100% like it is with card counting. And that's what's so nice with card counting is I don't worry the same way as I do with other AP pursuits, where I know, yeah, if I lose 15 grand, that's fine. I know I did everything perfect. I know it's going to bounce back with just a little bit more time. And I did everything I could, and there was nothing to do. With some of this other stuff, it's like when you're on a downswing, it's like, how long is this going to go on for? Like, we don't actually know our end zero on this game, and
Right.
what are we in for here? Like, that's just what's so nice about blackjack.
I think the comparison to card counting variance as you get, 1,000+ hours in, for me would be in skydiving. So I'm not scared to jump out of a plane anymore. But do I think about the ramifications and do I plan for it? I guarantee that if you measured brain activity and physiological response, preparing to jump, getting out of the plane, etc., things are heightened. You're being impacted by it. It's not scared per se or worried per se like it is in the very beginning. It does, you get more numb to it for sure, but that does not mean it doesn't impact you.
Yeah, and as far as how to handle it or how to cope with it, I would just kind of look at my results from the past and kind of rely on that to be like, well, I have been a long-term winner over time, even if it looks really nasty right now. This does work and it is working. And I just have to remind myself that. Another thing is there's this podcast that Colin and Loudon often did years ago that I have probably listened to like 15 times over the course of my career during hard times. It's called Winning and Losing. And the two just kind of go over the emotional, what it feels like either way. And it's such a good podcast. Like, I highly recommend that episode.
Same. How do you improve your speed at counting? Is it just a matter of practice, Joe?
Could be, or it could not be, actually. Yes, there is more reps, more hours. That could be the answer. But there also could be a problem where you didn't take enough time to work on some of the primary skills first, like the basic strategy chart, or just counting up actual hands, like elementary math. If you're not solid on those first, then it could take a lot more than or it could take like 4 times as many hours to get to the same spot as if you were to just take like 2 weeks aside to like just cement the charts in your head. So you never have to go back to that again. You can recall it instantly. That could be what's hindering your speed at counting as well.
Yeah, and a little encouragement here too. I think that for most people, learning, it seems like there's always one thing that's harder for everybody. Like, it's like getting to the 99%, the amount of time it takes to get to 99% versus the 99 to the 100%. They say it's like the same amount of time. It seems like, whether that's like true count conversion, deck estimation, the counting itself, or maybe it's just you're very good at all of them individually, but like putting it all together. It feels like from a lot of students at boot camp and own personal experience and friends that there's always one of those sections that is harder for everybody. So I would say that, don't give up, keep at it. You have to overcome this, and it'll be the least stressful thing to overcome in your card counting journey. I promise you that.
Yeah, right. Speaking of which, how do you avoid burnout from long hours of play and travel?
I can't speak as much to the travel like you can. And for those of you who don't know, really quick, I kept my corporate job for a long time. I keep saying half of my AP career, but like it's like down to a third now as the years go on. And I traveled a lot, and I managed many, many states in the US. So I was essentially being paid to travel. I would do my job, and then at night I would just go to a casino. I just kind of had normal work travel going on. And then I would only plan 2 to 3 trips a year on my own that I would actually pay for myself. And then after that, like I got in such a rhythm with other AP things. It was kind of always fun and exciting to go on some of these individual trips. So I didn't do like JCat. I was just listening to the podcast that you guys just did with him. I mean, incredible podcast, by the way. You guys should listen to it. But doing the entire loop around the United States, like I didn't do that. I didn't do what you did either, Joe. I hit a lot of casinos, but just not the way you guys did. So I didn't have a lot of travel burnout. I have casino burnout. Like being in a casino. Sometimes the JCat podcast also, because I listened to it yesterday, kind of made me smile and remember like SD1, you play games for a living. Like JCat made a joke like you're not getting up at 6 a.m. or whatever, was relating it to being a teacher and dealing with kids and all that stuff. And you know what? He's right. It doesn't make AP life not challenging. It is. There's a lot of things to it, but I had to go to work yesterday. I just got this knot in my stomach. Like I do not want to go into a casino. I just do not like being in them. I hate them. I hate the environment. So that's really tough. And at some point for me, it's just, well, this is what you do for a living. This is how you make money. You're going to go to work. I'm sure people with regular jobs have had the same, like when they hate their job, it's like more that gut wrenching physical feeling. I don't necessarily hate my job. Sometimes it's a lot of fun. But man, I do not like being in casinos for the most part. I just don't. So how do I handle that? I grit my teeth and I just keep hitting the nail. But the JCat podcast helped. It just reminded me like, yeah, if I want to just not work, like last year, I just took 2 full months off work. I didn't do anything. I can do that anytime I want. So big plus side too. And that kind of, I would recommend that to people too. Like if you need a break, take a break. That's one of the reasons you're in this. Most people are in this like field because you have that flexibility. And I think in the beginning, you were ecstatic, you were enthusiastic, you want to go attack the casinos, and that's great. And when you're that way, do it. But when there is some ebb and flow emotionally, take the break. And when you're on the road traveling, this is something I got from Joe748. Take days off and enjoy the areas you're in. Not all of them are great, but there are a lot of ones that there's places nearby to take a day off, not be in a casino, and depending on where you are, like enjoy that part of the travel, and that'll probably help.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like the most beautiful national park you've ever seen, but even just going out and just exploring some of these towns that you would have never gone to before, there could be some weird, quirky thing you run into, just something different, just change your environment up. And the way I did it, kind of traveling full time and doing it, is I would always set a destination that wasn't a casino as my primary reason for going on this route. Like, oh, I have a friend in Phoenix and I'm going to see them there. And then I'll visit all the casinos along the highway. And if I get backed off right away at all of them and I don't get that many hours, well, that's fine. I'm just going to be quicker to visit my friend. I did that a lot, where just always trying to see people around the country, and I'm driving towards them. And if I get hours, that's great. If a casino's letting me play, I just got to text my friend, hey, might be a week or two before I come to your area. But just like, yeah, that's how I dealt with it. And then, yeah, lots of breaks for sure.
Sunlight. Get sunlight.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Best ways to mimic casino conditions at home. Well.
Yeah. We got an answer for you.
Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
If you're members of Blackjack Bootcamp Show, we just released this crazy in casino mode test out on the website. It's the same basically test out as we had before drill, but it adds in all these distracting features. Like there's a really good soundtrack in the background that's a really distracting casino ambient soundtrack. I don't know where they got it from, but it's way better than the ones you find on YouTube. Maybe someone actually recorded in a casino, and then in between every single round, you can toggle this check mark that asks you a math teaser. So it's just like a sometimes simple, sometimes complex math question. and you have to give the correct answer and then try to go back to the original running count. It's hard, especially on the dealing speed 10. This casino mode is really hard.
Really hard. And then you can add in like dealer mistakes too.
Yeah.
And there were some comments of like, well, it's a little different because you're not getting chips. It's just displaying an amount. Well, that's true. It is different. But guess what? It's stressing your brain. If you're catching a number, you're definitely going to be catching the chips being off. So, yeah, it's hard.
Weren't you saying there was like people are trying to compete, right?
Yeah. So Ken Yates hit me up and was like, hey, where are the pros at on doing the 10 max speed? And, who did it first or whatever? I was like, you know what? I actually haven't even tried it yet at the time. Actually, I still haven't, but I want to now because he and a other group, and I feel like it was like 5 to 10 people, were like competing to see who could get perfect first on a 10. But it's hard.
What is the optimal minimum budget for card counting?
How cheap can you live?
Explain that.
Well, the minimum budget for a married man or woman with kids that is depending on income is different than a 21-year-old kid that lives with mom and dad still and doesn't have a lot of bills and isn't dependent on the money. So it's really like you need to answer that question, like, what do you need in life to survive? And that's how you create your budget and how lean can you run.
Yeah, it's like if you have a $4,000 bankroll or something and you're willing to grind out for around minimum wage or a little bit above minimum wage, someone else in a different situation probably can't do that. They can't use all those hours and time to do that. So it is, heavily dependent on your bills and financial situation. But I think these days, especially in Vegas, it's getting a little bit harder and harder. Well, no, it's not it is harder to have a small bankroll and play a good quality game. I remember back in the day, it was like, oh yeah, you can go to Vegas and $5,000 to $8,000 bankroll and play all these like games all over the place that were low risk of ruin and high EV, but they're just raising the minimum so much now and changing everything to 65 on the strip.
Even regionally, like I'm starting to see this awful trend where if you want a $5, $10, or $15 table, it's 6.5. If you want 3.2, it's 25 min.
Yeah.
That's a disturbing trend.
Yeah, it was definitely the backlash of COVID, but I think also too it's inflation catching up with the table minimum, and that's kind of affecting it.
I start off with a $50K bankroll. Part-time, kept my job. And $50K bankroll sounds really healthy. I didn't take a dime and live off of that ever until I went full-time. I just grew the bankroll. Nor would I have been able to live off of $50K bankroll. No way. Not possible for me. Which is why when that question comes up and we debate it or whatever, that number keeps going up about full-time. For me, at my point in life, like I'd be stressed with a $100K bankroll. I would need 200, 250, but that's me. And that's where the personal stuff comes in and like, what do you need to live and who are you supporting, et cetera.
And that's also because you're targeting a several $100 an hour plus EV.
Yeah.
Like you want $200, $300, $400, or $500 an hour, not less. So that's what's going to be required. But yeah, if you have a $50K bankroll and you have a bunch of expenses, like maybe $3,000 plus more a month in expenses, and you go have a really bad down session that same month, well, not only did you lose maybe $8,000 at the table, but you also have to pay for $3,500 in bills, and now you're actually down $11,000. It's kind of like you took an $11,000 hit at the table to not just $8,000, and then you have to factor all that in and use the pro betting software to readjust your bet spread to accompany that. Can you and do you fluctuate between team and individual play? If you play on a team, how do you find and vet your teammate? Let's address the first one. How do you fluctuate between your own individual play and then if you're on a team with other people?
Yeah. So are you playing for a team? Like, are you actually on a team? Or are you solo player who is joining a temporary team, because those are two very distinct scenarios. If you're playing for a team, you're playing for a team. You can't just have a session and be like, oh yeah, that was on my own. All your hours are for the team. That'd be shady if you just said, yeah, I decided to play that one on my own. That wasn't for the team. It doesn't really work that way. But you can be a solo card counter and get together with some friends and have a temporary bankroll and go hit them and then split it up at the end. You can do that. But I guess it's what are you at your core? And I didn't ever play on a long-term team. So I know what people have said. So vetting your teammates, you were a solo guy too.
I was a solo guy, but I did bankroll several people, and there were people I knew really well from way before AP. So that wasn't really a concern as much for me about trust. But I think for the few people who I didn't know, wasn't like a long-term friendship. It was, I just, instead of like red flags as far as like, oh, this person said this thing and it makes me feel nervous about bankrolling them, it was more like, what were the green flags that I saw in them? Similar to how Tommy Highland found all of his players through the golf course, and he kind of just chose the most trustworthy players that played with the most integrity on the course. It was kind of the same for me, but I just noticed they would do or say things in other situations. I was like, oh, that's a really good quality, trustworthy quality, or hardworking quality. They really respect risk of ruin, that kind of thing. Like they're safe about it. Just looking for enough of those, I think, is a good way to start the process.
Yeah. I'll also add that you never really know a person until money is involved. So you can do your due diligence and have what you think are really good feelings, and that trust goes in. But bad things do happen. So it's important to have systems in place.
How should we treat the risk and reward of playing aggressive versus playing a more optimized approach when we have little to no experience? How do you choose which way to go?
Mine was situational. So I'm not going to get into the weeds on this because everybody's different. You just have to make the decision on your own. By situational, I mean, if it was a place that I was going to return to and have the ability to keep returning to, I optimize more. If it was not, then I'd Joe748 it and burn it down.
An easy answer is, can your bankroll handle a more optimized play? Because there are certain games where you have to be aggressive. Like you can't be playing this many negatives at $15 minimum. That's the easy answer, is pull up the pro betting software. And if the risk is too high, doing an optimizer, then don't do it. Protect the bankroll first above EV when you're starting out.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the common mistakes we see all the time is over betting your bankroll, but one that doesn't get mentioned enough. And Joe, I hear you mention it all the time, actually. Under betting is a big deal also. So when you're playing highly covered, are you spreading enough? That's important. Okay. For someone who's just getting started, what kind of things would you recommend they think about for creating their first bet spread?
Yeah, I think it's really important, no matter what approach you're gonna do. We kind of just talked about, but use software, pro betting software, whatever software you're gonna use to put in your bet spread and see, because you read these books and sometimes they'll mention things like, oh, 1 to 10 or 1 to 16 bet spread is pushing it. But until you actually like put in the real and be honest with yourself and be honest with what the conditions are actually at the casino you're playing at, I think a lot of times we get optimistic about the penetration. We're like, oh, it's not 1.7. It's actually 1.5. Just because you're hoping that the local game near you is good enough. But you have to really be honest with yourself, because that little tiny difference, it could be the difference between like several hundred more hours of N0 or several percentage points of risk added onto it.
Yeah, I forget who first said it to me. I think all of us have mentioned it at one point, but who first said it to me in my card counting career, the majority of the time we overestimate our EV. And that stuck with me. So in terms of when I plugged something in and ran it, a spread, I just assumed I was getting like $50 an hour less. That was my assumption. Because I'm like, well, I'm not special in any way. I'm not that smart. So I'm probably overestimating my EV as well, even though I think I'm doing all the right things. I'm just going to knock $50 an hour off. Now, again, that was with starting off with a 50K bankroll that got to 100K bankroll, et cetera, et cetera. I think when I do, even as seasoned as I am, when I do the whole coast to coast revenge tour thing, I think I would still do that. I would knock like $50 an hour off because I'm like, yeah, I'm probably overestimating this a little bit. But the pro betting software through BJA is very, very good and very accurate. The amount of things that have been added to the software, from the players, rounds per hour adjustments that you can do, etc., really, really put a fine point to what your EV is.
Yeah, not to turn this into like a 30-minute long commercial about the pro betting software, but there are going to be some new features that are going to be rolled out pretty soon that are pretty sweet, especially to be able to use on mobile is huge. But yeah, look out for that whenever those get updated. Speaking of spreads, how can I figure out a spread that's small enough not to get backed off, but big enough to be worthwhile, especially when starting out?
Well, you can't. You can't.
Wouldn't we all like to know?
Yeah. You're going to get backed off. It's just going to happen. I mean, I've seen ploppies backed off.
Yeah, it's just a big guessing game, really.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to throw this back on you, Joe, this particular question, and I'm going to preface it with your proclivity to not be able to optimize and to always maximize, and your explanation for that as it applies to this question.
Definitely takes the guesswork out. For sure, it's one less thing you have to worry about in a weird way. But I've known players in the past who they try to get away with the smallest spread, the most hourly they can at each particular game they're at. It can cause some more long-term swings when you are spreading really tight. You might get more hours that way, but the thing that we just don't know, and I don't think anyone has data on, is because there's so many different variables, we don't know, and there's no clear answer like, 1 to 16 spread on average, if you played every casino in the US, would gain you X many hours. A 1 to 50 spread at those same casinos will give you this many hours, and then you calculate it to see the difference. There's no way to do that because it seems like it's all about who's working that night, the casino personnel, the surveillance. There's just too many variables where you just don't know who knows what they're doing on that shift or how busy they are, what other stuff they're looking at that night. That's like the ultimate question that we've been trying to figure out over the years. It's too hard to quantify.
Yeah, and ultimately, because of that, the varying opinions on this particular topic, they're going to be all over the spectrum amongst experienced, very good card counters. They're all going to have their opinions. They did it this way, and this is how it worked out for them, and et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, like Joe said, you don't know. So you are going to have to make that decision for yourself and what you want to do. But the biggest thing about optimizing, I would tell you, is, are you actually optimizing, or are you just scared of the back off? Or are you not being honest with yourself about pursuing a card counting career, which means travel, and you're trying to somehow, some way, like, not travel and be able to play your locals forever and ever? Be honest with yourself, because I'll tell you right now, that's a tall task. Some have pulled it off. We've interviewed Scott Chow. He's done a remarkable job in his local market, but just because it worked in his local market doesn't mean it's going to work in yours. So, food for thought.
Last question. He's already laughing because he can see the questions I'm about to ask. Is the card counting lifestyle glamorous?
It's just like the movies. just like the movies.
Martingale.
Yeah, Martingale. I mean, it's definitely ripping through singles and strip clubs and passing off money there, and hot women hitting on you all the time, and that's what it is, right, Joe?
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, yeah. No. There are pockets of that glamour, not exactly what you're saying, but there are very small windows where it seems like it's glamorous, right? Like at the beginning, if you're playing rated and you're not getting back, like they're just like treating you like you're a high roller, and you can have some like nice suites and comps and that stuff, but it's kind of a short runway for glamour.
Yeah, real short. I don't know if I've shared this before or not, but it was one of my wife's friends that asked, like, don't you get worried about, him being in a casino all the time around the scantily clad women and the partying and the fun.
All the people you see on the commercials and the billboards.
Yeah.
All the models from LA that are in all these
Right.
casinos.
And I got humorously asked that. And I said, well, the only women that are going to be hitting on me are about the average age of about 78 years old, wearing pearly white dentures, because that tends to be the demographic of the casinos. Like, obviously Vegas is different. You go there and, you go into MGM Grand, and I always remember, like, at nighttime, like, the lobby is just packed with the kids dressed to the nines to go out and all that stuff. But, like, I'm not part of that. I'm not going to the clubs. I'm going to grind away to the table. So I guess the short answer is no, it's not glamorous at all.
Yeah, or you're like downtown at the D and there's girls like, they're dealers like dancing on the tables.
Yep. D and Golden Gate. You're
not going to see dealers coming off their shift and dancing on the tables in Muskogee, Oklahoma. No offense, but it's not the reality there.
There is one reality in Las Vegas. You will 100% get solicited by prostitutes. 100% walking on the street, especially if you're a guy walking by yourself. Doesn't matter if you look like you have money or not, because most of us do not look like that. You will be solicited. That will happen.
Yeah, most of my card counting lifestyle basically looks like, every once in a while I'm going to the steakhouse comped in my sweatpants and tank top, and I'm in and out of Comfort Inns. That's my highest tier, by the way. I like Comfort Inn. I like almost never paid for like a Holiday Inn. It was always Comfort Inn or below. So I'm always, I'm hovering between Super 8s, Comfort Inns, and that's sort of just in and out, you're there, you show up, you sleep for 8 hours and you leave. Like, it's just, that's kind of the lifestyle.
Yeah, I don't think it's a mystery that card counters are cheap people by nature. We might be cheaper than your average card counter too. But when I wasn't traveling for work, which the quintessential work job, I stayed at a Marriott hotel, a lot of courtyards, every now and again a full service. So that was nice. But like, if I were just doing a card counting trip, Comfort Inn, that was top tier. They're nice in terms of, like, they're generally pretty clean places. You get the continental breakfast. You can make your own waffles. That's living high right there.
Yeah. Well, my version of a high roller hotel is every once in a blue moon, if there's no good options around, and I book a Country Inn Suites,
Ooh.
And I go to the desk and they have the freshly baked cookies at midnight, that is like, I've hit the big time.
Speaking of the freshly baked cookies, remember Tropicana? They had their when you like checked in there, they gave you the cookies.
I only lasted an hour there, I think.
I didn't play there until later, and through counting, actually, at another Caesars property, through counting only, I achieved 7-star status, and I came and stayed at the Trop when I didn't play there when I stayed. But I had those cookies, and I was like, and I'm a cookie monster. I have a serious problem. Joe, you know this. And I ate all your Girl Scout cookies at boot camp. But, man, that was awesome. Their cookies were really good.
You're not talking about Tropicana Atlantic City, are you?
Tropicana in Vegas.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to say Tropicana Atlantic City. There's no way you're getting a cookie there.
No.
They're likely to spit on your face.
Tropicana. No, AC is such a shithole. Like, such a shithole. Where did AC come up recently? Oh, it's a podcast that's getting ready to get released for an addiction advocate, which is an awesome podcast. he said that and we just laughed and we're like, yes, total shithole.
Yeah, so no glamour, but we are living glamorous on the inside when we're counting and we're taking money from casinos and we're choosing to spend it how we want to outside of the casino. That's where the real glamour comes in.
Yeah. Let's take this back just for a second to what we were talking about. People wanting to and our worry about filming their sessions with hidden cameras and whatnot. Remember that content out there is content to get you to follow. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that they're doing, the hard work and card counting, but just remember it's content. So it is not as glamorous as it might be perceived to be on YouTube or Instagram. That's what everybody should do. Stephen Bridges, your next one should be an entire video of how awful it is to be a card counter. That's a suggestion because that would be hilarious.
Yeah. All right, that about wraps it up for the Q&A podcast. Keep submitting your questions through the Blackjack Apprenticeship YouTube channel or on the Blackjack Apprenticeship forum, and we'll try to get those questions answered for you in the next ones. Take care.
See you guys.